Rush. It's the world premiere broadcast of Different Stages. The all-new 3-CD document of live Rush. Join Alex Lifeson, Geddy Lee, and your host Joe Robinson for the world premiere broadcast of Different Stages. We have assumed control.
What we do know is Different Stages is Rush's fourth live album, a 3-disc release spanning 20 years of performances. What we do know is that Rush are consummate musicians who pride themselves in ultimately pleasing their diehard fans. What we do know is Different Stages is one of the most widely anticipated releases of the year. What we do know is for the next 2+ hours, Geddy Lee and Alex Lifeson will share with us Rush's Different Stages. What we don't know is why most of this CD was recorded at one venue. What we don't know is how the band selected these live songs from hundreds of hours of recorded music. What we don't know is what the guys think of the then in 78 at Hammersmith and the now of the 97 performances. What we don't know is the gem that awaits us at the very end of this broadcast. Curious? Then join us for the Album Network world premiere broadcast of Rush's Different Stages. Oh, how long have we been waiting for this? It's the world premiere broadcast of Rush's Different Stages here on the Album Network. I'm Joe Robinson, delighted to have Alex Lifeson and Geddy Lee in the studio with us here in Toronto. Hi, fellas.
Joe. Hello.
Lovely to see you again.
Nice to see you. Same here.
Geddy, does the world really need another live Rush album?
Apparently so. Difficult question to answer, but when you're in the habit of making live albums, it's one of those things that you're always looking to perfect, and you just can't help yourself after a while.
Well, now there was All the World's a Stage, and then Exit Stage Left, and then A Show of Hands. Alex, do you think you guys are getting it right by this point?
I think we are getting it right by this point. Technology, the way it is today, allows you to record more shows in a more casual way than we used to in the past. In the past, you got a truck and you came in and you picked, 5 or 7 days and hoped to get all the performances. And of course, you never do, because Murphy's Law says you'll never get them when you really need them. But with the advent of portable digital recording, we're able to record 45 or 50 shows on a tour. And you have a lot of material to choose from and go for the best performances on a whole tour.
Well, it's a triple CD that we'll get to so many songs tonight for the world premiere broadcast. We're so excited about this. So all I would say to the listeners at home is make sure you put on your headphones, close your eyes, sit back and relax and pretend like you are going to be in a full-on Rush concert, because we're giving you all access to Rush and Different Stages tonight on the Album Network.
The world premiere broadcast of Different Stages is brought to you by Visa. It's everywhere you want to be. By ONDCP and the Partnership for a Drug-Free America. By Geico and by eBay. More from Rush after this on the Album Network.
We're back with Alex and Geddy for the world premiere broadcast of Rush's Different Stages. Now, Different Stages is made up primarily, other than the Hammersmith Odeon CD, which we'll talk about, but is made up primarily of songs from the Test for Echo tour, or when you guys were touring in '97. How many of those shows did you actually record?
I think there were 48 shows.
Yeah, there
on
were
the last tour, and 45 from Counterparts.
Yeah, I don't really
Total
have any
number of shows recorded.
Yeah, Alex is right. Something like that. A lot of shows.
So how do
Many
you
hours.
whittle it down? I mean, it's got to be a lot different than a studio recording, but how do you whittle it down to, okay, Alex played great on this, Geddy played great on this, Neil sucked, so we can't use that one,
Right. It's kind of there's a methodology that we developed, and it's a little bit long-winded. I'll try to be concise. The first set of exclusions, if you will, were done by our live sound engineer, who was also overseeing the recording on a nightly basis.
Robert Scoville.
Robert Scoville, that's correct, yeah. So he took the tapes to his home studio and was able to listen through and eliminate things like damaged tapes and, weird recorded moments and, just not good performances or out-of-tunenesses. And so anything that obviously is not usable, he would eliminate. And because of his familiarity with the band's performance, we trusted him to pick out, say, the best 10 to 15 versions of each song. So it's still plenty to whittle through. At that stage, he would send it to myself and Paul Northfield, who co-produced the record with me. And we would just listen to them over and over and try to determine which were the best songs and which songs suited the album. And, of course, that brought up the whole issue of which songs would you like to see on the album and which songs will eventually go on the album. So it was a very difficult choosing process, but that's what had to be done.
So, Alex, you pretty much just sat back on your ass the whole time and let Geddy and Paul do everything. Is that true?
Well, with the live album, you come in a few times, and once the character of what the live album is going to sound like is established, then it's just a matter of knocking the songs off. And in my case, I came in once in a while. I think I only came in maybe 4 or 5 times in the process of the recording once we started up in the summer. I was in more when we went through the first round of recordings or the first round of mixes that we decided not to use, and then we restarted again after the last tour. But Geddy was 5 minutes from the studio, and Ged had a strong interest in being involved in it. And I also thought that it was great that he was really on the ball and really into it, and that it became really a project of his.
Now, you guys were talking about recording dozens and dozens of shows. We've already heard The Spirit of Radio, and the next 3 songs that we're going to play in a row, just like a Rush concert, are the first 3 tunes on Different Stages. And it's odd that Spirit of Radio was recorded in Chicago, and all 3 of these next songs also were recorded at that same show.
Yeah, that's a really interesting theory now that we've kind of discovered. The more shows you record, the fewer shows that you use. After sifting through most of these shows, it came to be really a handful that were exceptional in terms of atmosphere, performance, sound quality, and crowd involvement. And the Chicago show, the one that we did at the World Amphitheater, every time we put those tapes up, had a very special atmosphere about it. There's just something about it that sounded like a kind of a special event. So we held up the Chicago show as the one to beat. Whenever we were comparing other shows, we would say, well, okay, let's pull up Chicago now. Is it better than Chicago? And if it wasn't better than Chicago, we used Chicago. So I would say 75% of the Test for Echo stuff came from that one Chicago show.
Interesting. The very first 3 songs on the 3 CD set of Rush's Different Stages. And what I love about this particular live CD, there's so many things, but the crowd, like, you guys didn't mix the crowd away from the music. Even, Geddy, when you're doing your bass solo for Driven, you can hear the crowd going nuts.
Right. Well, a lot of the live records we've made in the past, we've kind of gone back and forth on that. The first live album, All the World's a Stage, was done very quickly. We had no experience, and it was kind of what you got was what you got. And I know there's some fans that love that kind of raw, dangerous kind of atmosphere about it. But for us, it was a little too raw to really pass the test of time. The next live album we made, we kind of went a little overboard polishing it up, and it was a bit sterile, and the crowd was not important enough, as it should have been. And I thought Show of Hands was, which was the third live album, was pretty much on the money. But I think with this album, we've and by virtue of the method of recording, we've been able to capture real relaxed performances and a real connection with the crowd. And really what the album is about is that a confidence of performance and the connection between us and the audience, and we didn't want to leave that part of it out. So the hall sound and the involvement of the fans was very important to this project.
Next, we're going to talk about the Hammersmith Odeon and the concert that was done 20 years ago, and maybe revisit the raw side of Rush as we continue with the world premiere of Different Stages.
More from Rush after this on the Album Network.
We're back with the world premiere broadcast of Rush's Different Stages. Sitting in a studio in Toronto, I'm Joe Robinson. With me, Alex Lifeson, Geddy Lee. One of the CDs is a special, long-lost concert from the Hammersmith Odeon in London back in 1978 on the Farewell to Kings tour. Alex, what do you remember about that show?
I remember the dressing room. I remember the tuning room. I remember walking down the hallway onto the stage, and I don't remember much after that. I think I remember the crowd and the show. We did a lot of shows at the Hammersmith Odeon. As a matter of fact, we did 5 shows.
Well, one time we did a 5-nighter marathon.
Yeah.
Wow.
But I remember the hall being a great hall and the crowd being very enthusiastic. But also I remember that this night that we recorded, we weren't particularly happy with the way the night went. And I think I remember Geddy having problems with his throat.
Yeah, I had a cold.
Had a bit of a cold. And I don't think we even listened to those tapes after we finished them.
Yeah, I listened to them.
Yeah.
After the show, I went in the truck because Terry Brown, who used to produce us, flew in to engineer that show because it was going to go for a radio broadcast. And I remember going in the truck, and the first couple of songs at the beginning of the night, my throat was raw, and you could kind of hear that I was phrasing things really unusually. And Terry and I were both kind of uncomfortable with releasing it to radio in that state. But of course, 20 years later, a lot of what was bothering us then just kind of disappeared with time. And the instrumental performances in particular were so strong in the sound of the room. And also we had the luxury to cut out those songs that were a little uncomfortable vocally. So the bulk of the show, about 60 minutes of it, just sounded fine. And it was a real treat to be able to put on versions of those songs as they were played back then.
You were talking about the technical differences in 20 years of recording or of playing live, but let's go back a little bit to 1978 when you weren't as huge of a band as you are now. You weren't worldwide known. Rush was not a household name just yet. Were folks different in London at that time, Alex?
It was somewhat different. That was recorded, I think, on the
Farewell to Kings tour.
Yeah, second tour that we did there.
Yeah, that's right.
And, prior to that, our records were only available on import, and we had a very small cult following, but we went and did a tour. The first tour we did there, we did, I think, 12 shows, and they basically sold out in small halls, but, the promoters were really freaked by it, didn't expect it at all, and people from the record company were kind of taken aback by it as well. They didn't expect that sort of results. So, then the albums were released and everything sort of fell in place. So it was a very exciting time. You're right, we were a smaller band then, but there was a very strong cult following for us in England at that time, and it was really quite exciting.
Yeah, it also began a period where we worked a lot in England. We recorded in the English studios, and it became like a home away from home for us. And we got very familiar with living in London, and I look back on those times really very fondly. It was a great experience for us as just guys getting to hang around with each other in another city, and as bandmates. It was an exciting time.
Coined as lost tapes that we are so glad that you found and decided to put on different stages. Let's go back and hear Rush live from 1978. Whoa, Rush from London's Hammersmith Odeon in 1978 with a medley of Workin' Man, Fly By Night, and In the Mood. Oh, that medley just a tiny portion of the bonus third CD that's included on the new 3-CD live set Different Stages. Now, while you're listening to tonight's world premiere broadcast of Different Stages, you can check out all of the amazing websites that Rush fans have created. Just cruise the ultimate band list at ubl.com. It'll take you some time to visit them all, but at least you only have to go to one place to find a list of all the Rush websites that are out there. It's ubl.com, the #1 source for music information on the internet. Alex Lifeson, Geddy Lee, and more great live music from Different Stages when this world premiere broadcast continues on the Album Network.
More from Rush after this on the Album Network.
We're back, and in stores this coming Tuesday, November 10th, Rush's Different Stages. Geddy Lee, Alex Lifeson, here in the studio in Toronto with us. Alex, let's ask you this one. When you guys make a studio record, do you think about how you're going to translate that song live?
I think we used to think more about that, but I think a number of years ago we sort of came to the realization that whatever we do in the studio we can recreate live, and you get an added bonus playing live in that you've the live energy of the performance itself that's always different from what the studio record is. And again, technology is at a state where anything that you have played in the studio that you need, that becomes an important part of a song that you just don't have enough hands or feet for, you can trigger with. So I don't think it's been a limitation for us at all, really. It's been a challenge and one that we enjoy tackling.
The last time that we talked, it was right before Test for Echo came out, the album came out. And Geddy, we were talking about what you were planning to do on the tour. And Neil mentioned that he had scrapped the way he had played drums and started from scratch, relearned how to play for the 97 tour. Did you notice a difference in his playing, and did it affect you as the rhythm section?
Yeah, that's a good question. There was a difference. I mean, at times it was quite subtle, but in particular with his hardware, his cymbal work was really fluid, and the way the combination of bass drum, snare, and hi-hats work kind of as a unit, there was a slight sacrifice of power from the snare drum, but a fluidity inside of his playing between those different aspects of drumming that was very noticeable. His ability to groove, it just seemed like he could groove forever once he locked in on something. And as the tour wore on, I think he would change his styles, and he would sometimes, for the older material, I think he would go back to his older attitude of playing just because it seemed to suit that period.
And maybe
better.
he was more comfortable.
I think he got himself very comfortable with his new way of playing. He worked awfully hard on perfecting that. And for some songs, he could do that. But I think there were certain periods that were particularly big strokes and, a bit more of a cruder style and a more powerful style. I think he didn't really hesitate to go back to that older style of playing.
With Different Stages being the fourth live Rush album, it seems like each live record has marked a significant time in Rush's life as a band. Do you find that Rush was maybe a different band before All the World's a Stage, and then after All the World's a Stage, before Exit Stage Left, and in between, Exit Stage Left to A Show of Hands? Was Rush a different band each time?
Well, it's a good question. Certainly, I mean, with every album we changed somewhat. I can't really say, and I don't know if Alex agrees with this, that there was a marked immediate difference between pre-live album and after live album. But there were different periods where we got into technology, and that maybe coincided in a period between one live album and another. So
yeah, textural changes in the way we wrote songs and the sounds that we got for songs. And I think that they were marked. I think with this live record, it marks a slightly broader period of time. Even though the majority of it's from the last couple of tours, it covers a fair bit of material that goes back quite a ways.
Yeah,
but there was just something in the playing, in the performance, and in the way we were feeling on the last tour. There was a really great energy and a real great enthusiasm for what we were doing. And over the years, it's been very difficult at times on the road. You were away a lot from family and from friends and all of those sort of things, which comes with the job. That's just the way it is, and you sort of rise above it. But every tour has been marked with some kind of difficulty. But I think this tour, there was a lot of really good feeling and happiness. We really enjoyed what we were doing.
Yeah, that's true. And it was also an opportunity for us to look back. And we're not really given to that kind of nostalgia, but it's kind of like we were approaching our 25th year as the three of us playing together. And in a kind of an unspoken way, it was almost time to do a retrospective, which is what this album really is to me. It's different than the other live albums, which were kind of markers of that period. As Alex says, it's a broader look at what we've done over the last, 25 years.
It's like having the ultimate out-of-body experience of being at a Rush concert and having Geddy Lee and Alex Lifeson sitting next to you, enjoying the show with you. That was an incredible 3-song set of Free Will, Analog Kid, and Test for Echo. Different Stages is out on Tuesday, and we'll continue our world premiere broadcast right after this on the Album Network.
More from Rush after this on the Album Network.
In stores this coming Tuesday, November 10th, Rush's Different Stages, and you're experiencing the world premiere broadcast here on the Album Network. I'm Joe Robinson. With us, Geddy Lee, Alex Lifeson from Rush. There was no opening band for the first time on the Test for Echo tour for Rush. It was an evening with Rush. How was that different, Alex, than the previous tours that you've done?
Well, we were threatening to do that for years, but I guess in the past we always felt a little bit of a commitment to providing some kind of opportunities for bands to get onto a fairly large tour and
fairly
and all
large
of that.
Tour, yeah. Sell out every place you play.
But
Nice humility.
But with this tour, we just really wanted to do an evening with. We wanted the chance to play more material, not be restricted by time. And even as it was, I think when we went into rehearsals, we had about 5 hours worth of songs. I mean, that was the finished list, was 5 hours.
Wow.
It was even bigger than that when we wrote it all out. And we had to knock out 2 hours out of that somehow.
Or it could have been an evening with Rush and then another evening with Rush.
But it was
an evening
it was about
followed
time.
by a night.
It was
followed by
about
a
time, I
morning.
think, for us to do an evening with, because we had the material to support it. And I think our fans are so into the band that it becomes a much more special event for them as well. And I think the tour really proved that.
And the impact, if I just might add, that the impact of not having an opening act, of knowing that sound check was a little bit later, of a little less chaos in the backstage environment, having kind of a full day to do things outside of your normal go to the gig hotel type of thing, I thought was really good for our state of mind. And I thought that paid off in the way we played as well.
It's kind of interesting because there are certainly a couple of repeats from previous live albums that have made it onto different stages. And the tune we're going to play next, you first did on Exit Stage Left in '81, which was a phenomenal version of Closer to the Heart. But this one even tops that. And maybe that's what you're talking about, Geddy. So let's shop and compare. So what'd you think? Closer to the Heart and Tom Sawyer from Rush's Different Stages. It's the world premiere broadcast, 25 years of incredible music, 4 live albums. Where will Rush take us next? We'll find out.
The world premiere broadcast of Different Stages is being brought to you by Visa. It's everywhere you want to be. By ONDCP and the Partnership for a Drug-Free America. And by Dentine Ice. Don't go away. There's more from Rush after this on the Album Network.
We're back with Geddy Lee, Alex Lifeson for Rush's world premiere of the Different Stages CD that is in stores this Tuesday. I'm Joe Robinson. All fans want to know what the next stage of Rush is going to be. Do you have plans for the next studio album, Geddy?
Not at the moment, no. We are on what I guess what could be considered an extended hiatus, and we haven't discussed anything, and we really have no clue what the future holds for us. So at the moment, we're just spending time at home and waiting to see where we're going to end up next.
With the 3 CDs and on Different Stages, for the first time, all 7 parts of 2112. Because you played it live on the Test for Echo tour, Alex. You didn't even play the entire suite, 2112 suite, when you were on the 2112 tour.
That's right. Yeah.
Why did you decide to go back and do it this time around?
Just seemed like such a good idea at the time.
Excellent idea.
And the fact that we hadn't ever played it in its entirety, and it was a long time since we even played a condensed version of it, it was really time to bring it back. And having 3 hours to play with, it made it a little easier to fit in a 25-minute song with those time constraints. So it was time for it.
When we were talking... Oh, go ahead, Geddy.
No, I was just going to say that was one of the benefits of the having no opening act. You know, we were able to do something like that. And the other thing was, in the past we've done a lot of medleys where we've kind of taken bits of songs and stuck them together, which is never really a satisfying experience totally for us or for the audience.
Well, it just teases us a little bit. That's
so
okay.
This time, and having all this extra time enabled us just to play whatever songs we wanted to do. And it was a good indulgence, I think.
Well, as we wind things down, I want to thank both of you for, of course, taking the time out to visit with us and explain somewhat about Different Stages. Please give Neil our very best. And we are going to play on the radio, which is so cool, the entire live version of Rush's 2112 from Different Stages. Rock on, my brothers.
Thank you, Joe.
Great, thanks.
Thanks. Tonight's world premiere broadcast was recorded at Manta Studios in Toronto, engineered by John Hurlbut, assisted by Ben Swarbrick, with creative production by Steve Nelson, additional engineering by Jeff Laird. Special thanks to Ray Daniels and Shelley Knott of SRO Management, to Pat Creed, Leah Pisacani, and John Nardachone of Atlantic Records, to Leslie Soldat of Sound Source, to Neil Bird, Maria Museda, Regina Livesay, Beth Arzi, Jim Villanueva, and Michael Davis of the Broadcast Department, to Bob Bernanke and Paula Vasallo of SJS Entertainment. For more information on Rush and for a listing of over 50 websites dedicated to the music of Rush, check out the Ultimate Band List at ubl.com, the Internet's ultimate online music resource. The world premiere of Rush's Different Stages was produced by Mark Felsot, associate producer John Valenzuela, and the executive producers are Gary Bird, Steve Smith, and Tommy Nast. I'm Joe Robinson of Chicago's Rock 103.5, and this has been an exclusive presentation of the Album Network and SFX Entertainment Company. Copyright 1998, all rights reserved.